Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
You're listening to Women Empowerment Wednesday. I am your host, Coach Latoya. You can reach me on my website at www.coachingbylatoya.com. Also on Facebook, Coaching by Latoya, and on Instagram at Life Coach Latoya. So if anything resonates with you, or you just want to send a message and you want to say, hey, I like the episode, or you have an idea of an episode that you want me to talk about, definitely send me a message. Be glad to hear from you. All right, let's get into today's show. Hi, Arasi, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I am great. So thank you again for agreeing to do this meeting with me. So I want to at least introduce you. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a good friend of mine, Arasi Adkins. I'm going to let her explain everything that she's about, who she is, but I just want to take you down memory lane a little bit. She and I met back in high school. Philadelphia High School for Girls, and she was so kind to me, and I just love it. She still has that beautiful smile. It's just amazing, and it's a great spirit. So, Arasi, hi, how you been?
Great. I'm so glad you reached out, and this is really fun, so I'm glad we're doing this.
Yes. So, I'm going to take you back a little bit into high school or so, and even if you need to go back further, what did you want to do when you were little? In a career.
Oh my gosh. Going back to when I was little, I always wanted to be a teacher. I could see myself being a teacher. So, but this is a testament to how things change in life, that I went to school for teaching. I got a master's degree in teaching and everything, but I actually never went into teaching, but I went into something related. Didn't ever take a class in college about human resources, but in the year 2000, I was living in Virginia. That's where I went to college. And my dad was diagnosed with diabetes, like pretty severe diabetes. He was living back in Philly. And so I decided after I graduated to go back there, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I didn't want to teach. And so he was working part-time at the school district of Philadelphia. And so he said, well, let me send this to my friend. There's an opening in human resources. I didn't know what the heck the job was. I never even saw a job description. But I went in, they interviewed me, and I had a background in customer service. And in my mind, I never even saw the job description, like I said, but I thought that, customer service is at the heart of HR. So I kind of used that in my interview. I was hired then, and it's been 20 years that I've been in HR.
Wow. Look at that turn. I would have never guessed that. Wow. But I can see you teaching though. I truly see that.
So it was kind of like on the periphery. I worked in human resources in school systems. And so I used that background knowledge about, that I learned in teaching and about being in schools and everything. So that marriage kind of worked out, being in human resources primarily in school systems.
Oh, wow. That is amazing also. Yeah. So now, recently, you just launched your own HR consulting agency. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I did.
So now being in HR for so many years, okay, you probably take it you really enjoyed what you did, in that field. What made you want to branch out?
That's a great question. I really I was experiencing a lot of, like, especially working women do, burnout. I have 2 children. There were a couple of events in my life that really were kind of like wake up calls. I've always been a workaholic, like certified workaholic. They're stamped, stamped and sealed. And my daughter is a junior in college now. My son is in 9th grade. But when my daughter went to college, for whatever reason, it really hit me very, very hard. I know, of course, every parent is sad when their kids go off to college and, they're leaving you and and I took it so hard. I think that was sort of a wake up call for me to see I had spent my whole life prioritizing work. And the time when she went to college, I thought to myself, my God, it went by too fast. I cried for weeks. And I realized that I was basically giving my life away, and so I was thinking about, I've got to like get my life back. I love my job. I love human resources. I love working in that, but that I had zero work-life balance. I was literally giving my life away. I think a lot of working, especially moms, feel that way. It's like you're constantly feeling the guilt of not being there, for your kids. But then when you're at work, you're thinking, it's like the opposite. When you're at home, you're thinking about, oh, I have so much work to do. I need to do X, Y, and Z. When you're at, when you're at work, you're thinking about spending more time with family. So that was really there were a couple of events that happened. My daughter going to college. I also realized when my son started to play football, he was in 7th grade, I had school board meetings. So I would have to attend every single school board meeting. We had them twice a month. And I realized that I didn't attend a single football game because they always corresponded with school board meetings. But what I never missed? A school board meeting. So it's like that, those things when you look back and you realize, like, I'm giving my life away when the things that matter are your family and your friends and the memories and the experiences that you have with the people you love. That's all we have.
Exactly.
And so that really was a catalyst, for my decision. And I wrote down some steps. Hopefully it could be helpful for people listening to this, that of like how I got from this very, 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 very stable, secure job. I have always been an extremely risk-averse person. Having a government job and having a state employment is pretty much as stable as you can get. We had a defined pension plan. Well, they're going to pay you a paycheck your whole rest of your natural life,
Right.
So to take that leap, it almost seems a little crazy because I have this sure thing, I'm 20 years about to retire. Midway, we're like mid-career professionals, or we're halfway done, sort of, or maybe 2/3 of the way done. But yeah, I mean, so I can go ahead and start and, share kind of like what went through my mind and some of the steps that I took to kind of make this leap of faith.
Yes, please do.
So the first thing when I kind of had those wake up calls, I literally just like took a notepad and just started writing. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can do it on a computer or something, but I just started brainstorming ideas. I think many of us think about wanting to go off on our own to be self-employed because it gives you the time freedom and all of that stuff, more time with family. But a lot of us, I know in talking to friends and even my sisters, we would talk about for years, like, but what am I going to do? Okay, I would love to be self-employed, but what is it that I'm good? What can I do? And so that's what I started to write down. I just started brainstorming the things that I love. For me, as I mentioned, I had 20 years experience in HR and happened to love it. There were certain parts of it, though, that I didn't, that I was really burnt out on, like the employee relations and some of the more logistical things. Honestly, even managing a team. Like I was the head of HR for a 5,000 employee school system, and I had a team of 20. And it's great, if you love managing people, and it's wonderful. But I did that for over a decade in different places, and you get burnt out on that too,
Definitely, right.
And so I started to write down the things that I really, really liked about HR, and I gravitated toward the search and selection and recruitment process. And so I started to write down, here are the things that I love, that I'm passionate about. In particularly, I had success in, recruiting, selecting, and supporting diverse candidates, but
Oh,
particularly women of color, and even more specifically, Black women. Because I had seen over and over again in the organizations that I worked, no matter how sort of progressive they were, that particularly women of color and more particularly Black women were always had it a little bit harder and were put under a microscope or a magnifying glass. And so
yes.
one of my areas of passion and focus is to help recruit, but not only recruit, to support people as they're there so that they can really thrive and grow in a safe and welcoming, nurturing environment. So that's what I really set my mind to. Once I did that, I kind of created like a bubble map. So I just
Okay.
said, I know I really want to be in the search and selection. I know that this is like in my heart. This is something that I love to do, want to help people do this. And then I just started to draw lines on like who do I know that's a consultant? Who do I know that is in the search industry? Who do I know that maybe not even related to the search industry, but people that I could reach out to that have connections. So I just started to bubble map those things out, and you'd be surprised when you start writing down, like, when you really actually sit down with pen and paper and start writing down, you'd be surprised at all the connections and the people that that
Right.
might seem unrelated. Um, so I did that. I still have the piece of paper. It was January of 2020, right before the pandemic,
Wow.
that I started there. I have all my notes and everything. And then I started to research. So the first thing, like I said, was just brainstorming. What am I passionate about? What am I good at? What do I want to do? Create your bubble map, see who you could talk to seek advice. And then the third thing, I drafted an email with my resume and I started researching search companies. And at that time, I didn't know, okay, maybe I want to work part-time there and then start my own business so that I have some income.
Right.
So I literally emailed 43 search companies nationwide, and I just kind of like, hey, I'm interested in learning more about your company, and just to kind of get at least talk to people about what it's like in that field. I've never been,
Right.
in the search field. And just from that, sending out 43 emails, I got 5 callbacks, which is pretty good,
That's awesome. Yes.
pretty good for percentage. And I'm really happy to say that I'm actually working for one of those folks. I basically just cold emailed. And so I have a part-time job working for a search company, and they do higher ed searches for leaders like deans and presidents, vice presidents, and things like that. So that's another thing I think that's really helpful is, as you're setting out on this journey, try to figure out a way to create some steady income for yourself. I mean, you don't have to do this, but I found that really helpful, because that way you can really have the kind of security blanket. Again, I was very risk averse, so I was like, let me work on this, let me have some, true income coming in, and then I
Right.
can build my own consulting sort of on the side. Um, so, and then I think one of the most important things is to try your best to take steps toward your goal. It might not happen like
Mhm.
overnight. Like,
Mhm.
this was a year-long process, but I knew I was committed to it. So once I realized, you know what, I am going to be a consultant. I want to own my own company. And when I say company, it's like, it's just me. It's not like this huge, like, corporation or something. It's just an LLC. But I went and on LegalZoom, it was like
Okay.
$100, and I was like, in February of 2020, I was like, before the pandemic, I was
Mhm.
like, I'm going to take steps to do this. So let me register. Let me go ahead and take that step. Cause then you have some investment in it.
Definitely.
When you have some um, skin in the game, so to speak, then that helps you. Okay, I registered for an LLC. Got to do something with it. There are annual reports to file and things like that. So I think another piece of advice is like, just take active steps, like that email that I sent out to the 43
Right.
companies, registering for the LLC. Even though I didn't know that, what was going to come to fruition, take active steps toward your goal. And it might not happen right now. It could happen a year from now or 6 months from
Correct.
now. I think one of the other things that is super, super, super important is to understand that when you're on this journey, you have to be flexible, because it's not going to look the way that you might, think it's going to look, but it comes out exactly the way that it's supposed to be,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You
Like
were
I'm
doing
rambling
great.
on and on and on.
No, these are awesome steps. I'm taking notes because you started just before the pandemic. And when you already take that leap, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And before we even get to the pandemic, I do agree that when you have some income coming in, that you don't feel as desperate to make the wrong move because you need some income.
Right.
You already know you have something on the side, that part-time income that's coming in. Okay. So when I say I mean, the person who's making these decisions, okay, I can comfortably navigate this process that is foreign because it's you doing it. It's your company, it's your name, it's your brand. And so now you can take your time. And even if you make some mistakes, okay, it's not as detrimental because you still have income coming in. But the best part about your story is it's still in the field that you want to do. That's the best part. So no matter how you look at it, even at your part-time job, which you're still making connections, you're still meeting people in the industry that you want to create that you are creating your business. This is amazing. So I think this segue that you had is just great with your experience on top of it. And for you to even pinpoint, this is the part I like. I like the recruiting. I like that. So let me focus on that. So therefore, that's your passion. It's not a job. It's what you want to do.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So as you wake up, it's like, who can I help today?
Right.
Whose life can I change today?
Yeah.
And then you feel that satisfaction that you actually made a difference. And I think that's the best part of being an entrepreneur, because you get to see that part that you do.
Yeah.
So with all of that, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. The pandemic hits, and it's like, what?
Oh my gosh.
What obstacles, if any, did you encounter this year?
A lot. So, and this is why I was saying, like, it's so important to be flexible. Once I set my heart on, I'm going to leave, I set a date for myself and a timeline, I'm going to leave by June of 2020. This was back in January and February before, what hit the fan, right?
Right.
So, of course, as I was reaching out to some of these search companies, they were very, very hesitant to hire, to extend it, because things were uncertain for them. And so one of the things just about being flexible is in your own mind, like just staying the course and saying, I really wanted to help my school system. They needed me at that time, and I really wanted to help them with the pandemic. And so rather than just say, no, I've got to do this, I stayed through the end of the year, through December. And so my plans for leaving at drop dead deadline in my mind was June, but the pandemic hit, and it's like, you need to be okay with shifting course and postponing sometimes. And there are going to be obstacles that come in your way. But at the end of the day, I made a conscious choice that I was going to help the school system. And I know that they appreciated that, because there were so many things, processes that we had to create. I'm good at creating processes. And so, when all of this uncertainty happened, I know that my school system, the school principals, like I think that they appreciated me being at the helm, because this is just one of my strengths, to be a calming presence, especially during a chaotic time. And so I think that they really appreciated that. So in the process, I just had to adjust my thinking, even though I was desperate to leave and start this new adventure. But sometimes making a decision that I'm going to stay and help, it's always a good thing. When you're giving something to somebody and you are being empathetic and being kind, that's always going to be a positive thing. So that's what I decided to do. And I know that they appreciated that. And I was happy too, that I had a little bit more time, with the stable job, the stable paycheck and everything. So it was
Right.
beneficial, for me too. But another thing about the pandemic is that because there was so much uncertainty, it was really scary to sometimes I was like, are you crazy? Like, why are you doing this during a pandemic? Like, we're still in it,
Right, exactly.
But that's why I was saying earlier that staying the course is really important. One of the steps that I have that I really want to go over is part of the process is getting your financial house in order. So part of that was, all right, how do I get some steady income so I'm not stressed out?
Yes.
The second thing about getting your financial stuff in order is try to pay down as much debt as you can. And don't get flustered if, and this is for the audience, don't get flustered if it might not be this year. Like, you might have to have 3 years where you pay off your credit card debt or pay off a car that is, that's taken up a lot of your budget or whatever. That's okay. Just set that goal and then stick with it. Try to reduce your bills as much as possible, because as a consultant, there are or as anybody who's self-employed knows, there may be times during the pandemic, especially, but in really non-pandemic times too, you're not going to have a steady check,
Right.
So reducing, I cut my cable bill, of course I was commuting 80 miles a day up and back. So gas was down. Just little things to analyze your budget and your expenses every month and see where you can cut those things. If you have any debts, try to pay down your debts as much as possible so that you're, and try to build up your savings. Try at least to build up. It would be ideal to have 6 months of pay, but not everybody can do that. But try your best to have at least 3 to 6 months of pay so that way you're not stressing out when you don't have a paycheck. So I told you I worked for that search company and things were going really well. I started on January 4th, right after the new year. I was getting projects that the company president really liked my work. It's just giving me a lot of hours and everything. All of a sudden, a couple of the universities that we were working with postponed their searches because of COVID, the budget and everything.
Right.
So there were 2 weeks that I literally had zero work to do. And I knew that I was not going to get paid, but I knew all right, I planned for this. I have a, savings set aside, and don't freak out, it's
right.
So I think that's a really big part of both living in the pandemic and non-pandemic times. If you're embarking on a journey like this, that's really important.
It's huge. I also believe the pandemic has taught those who never thought of it.
Yeah.
You hear it from time to time, always have some money saved. It's like, well, I can't do that. No, you have to do that. It's not, you have to find ways to do that. You have to make some sacrifices. So just like you said, so you're not as stressed when things come about and then you don't get a paycheck. That's
Right.
okay. We can still eat. We still have somewhere to sleep.
Right.
I prepared as much as you can for situations. Like even when you do still work, think about it. That unexpected car repair.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, wait a minute. Even when you have another paycheck, did you budget for that extra tire that you didn't think you needed to go get? Or, you're a homeowner, did the pipes bust and you got to figure that out,
Right.
Only so much that you can do with homeowners insurance. Some insurances want you to pay up front first and submit the receipt later,
Yep.
There's so many things that you need to prepare for, period. You know what I mean? Just because anytime you want to venture into anything, whether you are not an entrepreneur, but you want to take a vacation, but okay, this happened, I got to prepare for that. So even more so as an entrepreneur, because you also don't know what to expect. So granted, you cut back, which is an amazing thing. You cut back, you prepared financially, so then you weren't so stressed when that time came and then you had no work. Um, what was your why when you say stay the course? What was that?
Because I knew that I had to change my life somehow, and that I could not sustain living as work being my life. It's
Mm-hmm.
just unsustainable. It's not mentally healthy. It's not physically healthy. You can only burn the candle at two ends for so long, and so I actually had a health scare back, and this was a while ago, like in 2014. I was experiencing like numbness and tingling like on half of my body. And
Wow.
so to make a long story short, I went to the doctors, and, they gave like MRIs and took all these tests. They thought I might have MS, and it was a scare. And turns out I didn't have any of those things, but it was all stress related.
See,
So if you don't make some of these decisions, your body is going to make them for you.
definitely, definitely.
Your mind, and so I decided to stay that course because I knew my daughter going to college, having that health scare, not being there for my son. My son was entering high school. I didn't want to have another 4 years. Then my husband and I are going to be empty nesters after he leaves. So I don't want to have that sort of depression that I had, like the regrets of not spending time with your children. Like that's what life is about, So that's why I decided to stay the course. One other thing about the financial, before we, go off that topic, I think is important. It's like, it's definitely cutting back on your bills, but think creatively about what other sources of money that you have. Like, for example, I never took vacation time, which was stupid. Like I said, I was a workaholic. Like I rarely took vacation. And so I had all these vacation days built up. At my job, they pay you out for up to 30 days. So that 30 days of pay, that payout, I knew that was coming. So that I also did not touch it. So I knew that, that was part of my savings. So not only did I cut back on the bills, but I knew that vacation payout was coming. And I was, in the back of my mind, was like, I'm going to save all that for my backup income.
Oh, okay.
If you don't have that, like, think creatively about what other like monies can be stockpiled. So if you're going into to be an entrepreneur, for all, you might make the decision that it might make sense for you to take a 401k loan or something, to have some cash. So it is definitely about cutting back. But for some people, there's only so much you can cut back,
Right,
Some people are, wanting to make this leap, but they're like, okay, I don't even have cable. I don't drive. I don't have, so what am I supposed to cut back? But don't be discouraged about it. Try to think creatively about what other sources of money that you might be able to have, because I'm telling you, that is like you were saying, having that peace of mind is really big. And you know what, like I said, it might take you a little bit longer. Like It might take you 5 years to have that ideal 6 months pay, but that's okay. You're working toward the goal, or you might be able to do it in a year. But don't get discouraged, I think is really important. And just try to, like you said, stay the course, but make little steps and develop a plan. I think that is so important, and write it down.
Yes.
It's only between you and yourself, whether you're going to do it. So.
And I also want to add to that, celebrate each checkoff.
Yes.
It's a huge milestone for yourself on your list. So whatever little celebration you need to do, definitely congratulate yourself, because this is your company. This is something that you need to be proud of. So each step you take that you're able to say, check, did that, check, did that. Definitely celebrate yourself for it.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. So going back to your company, tell me more about what you do. So if a company wanted to reach out to you, how would they?
Sure. So I primarily work, because it's my area, that this is what I know. School systems. Right now, I have 2 contracts with school systems. So I have my part-time job. I'm learning all about the search stuff. But and this is another thing about being able to adjust and be flexible. So after I took this leap of faith, I had a friend who was a former colleague who was our chief finance officer and chief operating officer where I used to work in the school system. He called me and said, let's set up a call. He started his own LLC maybe about 8 months before, I took this leap of faith.
Mhm.
And so he said, I would love to work with you. He was like, you have the, great HR experience. I'm trying to build my company, my LLC. And, he has the finance background. He's really just a very, very smart, kind person of integrity, like somebody who I loved working with. And so, of course, I had created my LLC back in February, like I said, last year, but I decided that, and he was already working with some school systems. And so it was, you have to kind of put your pride aside a little bit. Like in your mind, you might think, oh, I want to have my own LLC. I want to have my own company. And that's okay. I'm not getting rid of my LLC, but I decided to partner with him in his LLC. He's paying me and my LLC, but nobody knows that. It's behind the scenes. It looks like we're all part of his. And so, I started to do that, and he recommended me for this current contract that I have, with the school system. And so that's another thing that, just going back to that, don't be afraid to make adjustments, even if it means delaying your own, like having your own thing, because that's where the contracts and the connections and all of that is coming from. The other thing is that I really, really enjoyed working with him and partnering with him. And we kind of are, he has his finance background, I have my HR background, but together we're even stronger, having both of those, being able to market those services to school systems is way better than just having one independent HR person. If we teamed up together, a lot of those processes, especially in school systems, are interconnected with HR and finance. They're kind of inextricably linked. And so both of us are better and stronger together. So I kind of joke to myself that I have odd jobs. And I was telling my sister, I sound like a serial killer. They always have all those serial killer shows like, he worked odd jobs. So I basically have 3 jobs. I have my own LLC and I have a couple of contracts doing that. And then I have with my business partner through his LLC, and then I have that part-time job. But honestly, I couldn't be happier because I control the flow of work, like how much I want to do. I can say no to projects that I don't want to do, and honestly, Latoya, I'm having fun being the worker bee for once. Like I only have to manage myself, whereas before I managed a whole team and had to worry about all the details for all the entire team, and there was so much stress involved. So I kind of am enjoying being, working on these different projects and just doing the grunt work, and I really enjoy it. Like I've learned a lot about just a ton of work. We've done a lot of work with spreadsheets and data stuff or whatever, but so that's what I'm doing. I work with school systems in all the areas of HR. I would love to get into, like, if I get a contract for helping recruit and retain diverse teachers and staff. But for right now, my contract with the school system that I have is actually 2 different ones. One, I'm helping one with their public records request. So it seems kind of unrelated to the search field, but it's sort of in the realm of HR. And then the other one, I'm helping them with their staffing and position allotments. So in school systems, it's a thing like to match staff to positions and all of that stuff. So, and I think one thing that's really important is, even if you think that something's difficult or you don't know, like say yes, and you could figure it out. You could figure out some things. And so that's kind of one of my, going into this, like being flexible and sort of believing in yourself that you could do this, too, having that coming into it with that attitude. Like it was a little scary, saying yes to the school system that wanted me to do, again, my background or the work that I really, really want to do is recruitment and selection, but they had this huge task and it wasn't particularly like what I really wanted to, like position allotments. How boring is that, but saying yes to things. And then I've actually been pleasantly surprised about how I've enjoyed it and trying to figure things out and creating something that's helpful for them. So.
That is beautiful. I love it. I love you got your hands full. You got a couple of things going on. That
I have
is
my odd
wonderful.
jobs.
Odd jobs. That is great. So, what is your mantra? What keeps you going? Like when you sometimes you have those rough days. What do you tell yourself, or what practice do you have to keep yourself going through those rough times?
That's a great question. Without hesitation, it's practicing like radical gratitude for the things that you do have. I am a stickler on especially if I'm having a bad day, I'll pull out this journal that I have that I always keep in my drawer, and I literally just write down the things that I'm grateful for. Doesn't matter. It's actually the best exercise to do when you're having the worst day, is to shift your mind's focus to the things that you do have and that you're grateful for. One of the stories that really touched me, Latoya, when you were talking last week, you were talking about your son and how encouraging he was, and how he was really like a strong supporter, and that made you feel so good,
Yes.
On days that you're having a really hard day, it's so easy to write down like, oh my God, I'm so thankful for my son and his support and his encouragement, or for me, I'm thankful for my husband who's like, all right, you're crazy for doing this, leaving this crazy job, but I'm going to support you. I just start to think about the things that I do have and that I'm grateful for. And that's definitely my mantra, is just practicing that gratitude. And I guarantee people, if you do this for like 7 days, like 5 to 7 days, if you write down the things that you try to shift your thoughts to what you're grateful for and what you do have, something positive always happens.
That is true. I noticed that. I did notice the same thing when I do that practice. And I totally agree with that. It is an amazing practice to have daily if you can.
Yeah.
But I'd like to issue out that challenge to our listeners. Definitely try it for 7 days. Hit us up. Hit me up, Coach Latoya. Let me know how's it working for you guys. And say thank you, Arasi, for the idea. Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me today. And oh my gosh, this is just amazing. You gave us a lot of great tips. So you're going to see me again. You're definitely going to hear from me again. This is amazing. Thank you, Arasi.
Thank you, Latoya. It was great to be with you.
Here.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that will conclude today's episode on Women Empowerment Wednesdays. Don't forget, you can reach me at my website, www.coachingbyLatoya.com, on Facebook, Coaching by Latoya, and on Instagram at Life Coach Latoya. See you next Wednesday.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.